Welcome to Inventiveminds Child, Youth, and Family Support Center. We are a not-for-profit organization working with families in their day-to-day parenting by providing workshops and seminars related to pediatric and child development. Inventiveminds provides care in the early years sectors for newborn to age 6, licensed under the Ministry of Education all across Ontario. Inventiveminds cares an elementary school open to international students from junior kindergarten to grade 3. The Inventiveminds Family Center helps families in mediation, arbitration, and parent coordination cases related to family separation and divorce. We support families during and past separation and divorce. Inventiveminds works with court orders to conduct child voice record and parenting courses related to CAS, court, and mediation purposes. To learn more about our services, reach us at inventivekids.com or canadafamilymediation.com. Well, hello everyone. It's wonderful to have you all with us today. We are extremely excited that we have our host, Lily, with us today. She is a certified pediatric sleep consultant and potty training consultant. We even use Lily in our school. Sometimes we have families and children that aren't being toilet trained, and we're calling up Lily. Lily, come on and help us out here. We need your expertise and to just help us with some parenting day to day, because parenting day to day not only happens in the home, it also happens in the school section. So thank you, Lily, for being with us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. It's always a pleasure to be here and to talk to you about sleep and about potty training. I want to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Lily Horbachuk. I am the owner and founder of Lil Baby Sleep. I have two little ones myself who have just gone through these phases as they are now 5 and 7. And I started this whole sleep and potty training support because of my experience with my first. And I know how hard it can be, how lonely it can be if you're feeling like you're parenting a toddler and you just don't know what to do. And there's just so much frustration. Lil Baby Sleep now serves thousands of families all over the world, helping them with our sleep and potty training programs. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about toddlerhood, preschool, any age over the age of 2 years old, because I know that's where we can get stuck. And we're going to talk specifically about how to set up our little ones for great sleep at this age. And I know this is the time of the year, the end of the summer, where we are ramping up for back to school. You're probably getting a little bit nervous. Schedules have probably changed. You're getting some later bedtimes. You might be having some power struggles, and that is 100% normal at this time of the year. So this is a really great time for us to have this discussion. And I can tell you from experience working with so many families in this age group that bedtime is a big, big challenge and something that us parents really, really dread. It can be stressful, especially if you are exhausted at the end of the day and you want to get to bed or you want to have a little bit of a break and your little one is just not ready to sleep. You are getting lots of power struggles and it's taking hours for your little one to fall asleep. So think about what the biggest challenge for you is right now and write that down so that we can chat about it at the end and you can ask me all of your questions, because really the reality is great sleep starts at bedtime. And our little ones, our toddlers, our preschoolers, they are wired for consistency and routine, just like we are as humans. We want to make sure that we are setting our little ones up for success before they go to sleep, leading them into a really consistent bedtime routine. And that in itself, heading back to school, it's going to make sleep a lot easier for them. When they know what to expect, they feel more secure. And so when we set some boundaries, set some expectations around bedtime, they feel a greater sense of security because they know exactly what's going to happen. So we're going to go through what a good bedtime routine looks like. I know, having worked with so many parents, anxiety kind of builds throughout the day. We let it out at bedtime. Maybe you're trying to put your little one down and you just don't have the patience for it. When you're exhausted, emotionally, you're not feeling your best. And so is your child, right? That's the same for them. Guilt. There's a lot of guilt at bedtime because we sometimes respond in a very emotional way. And so that can make us feel guilty, frustration, and agitation, really normal at bedtime, but all things that we can resolve going forward. Why are holding boundaries so hard? You're exhausted. You want to get back to you time. You want to get back to sleep. You know that your child is tired. I have so many parents that come to me. They're like, I know they're exhausted. I know they're not getting the sleep that they need. Why are they not going to sleep? Right? And that's why bedtime is so difficult for a lot of families. We're going to talk about that, but you just want things to be easier. And we're going to actually talk a little bit about sleep science. I want you to really understand why your little one is waking up at night, why they're having so much trouble with sleep. I want to talk about daytime schedules because we are essentially needing to set up our little ones with the best opportunity, and we can't do that if they're not getting enough sleep that they need. We want to talk about how to set up the optimal sleep environment. That is so important. The environment in which they sleep is going to make a difference. How to set up your ideal bedtime and wind down routines, how to set mutually agreed upon boundaries. So boundaries are those things that our little ones really need at this age because their job is to push boundaries, to see how far it's possible. And our job is to hold boundaries. And so boundaries are really important, especially at bedtime, but they're actually the hardest. Engaging your child in what we call bedtime rules and helping them understand what are the expectations around bedtime. And then if we have time, we'll talk a little bit about early mornings. So there is time for many words. And there is also time for sleep. There is time for both. I love this quote because it's so true. There is lots of time during the day, and we need to build that in for connection. But bedtime is for sleep, and sleep is really important for your child's brain development, for your child's emotional regulation, really important for all of the things that make us function optimally. And so we need to respect that sleep time and make sure that we have some really clear and set boundaries around it because it is very important. That's why I love this quote so much. I want to go through a few key sleep foundations that I talk to all of my clients about. I want to make sure that your child gets the right amount of day sleep. This after 2 years old, day sleep is really dependent on the child. Before 2 years old, it's more predictable. After 2 years old, it's really dependent on the child. If they do need some day sleep, if they're getting 12 hours and they do need a little bit of complementary sleep, that they're getting that. If they don't, how do we adjust their bedtime so that they are getting the amount of sleep that they need? Set them up for success with the right environment. So what I mean by environment, I mean, how is your little one's room set up? Right? Is there light coming into that room? Is there a sound machine? Is there a lovey that they use? All of these things are tools to help set the best environment. There are some personalities that won't sleep in an overstimulating environment, are really sensitive to that, and some are not as much. So we need to kind of just assume that they're sensitive and set them up for that. Landing the planes. I'm talking about winding down. How do we set up a solid bedtime routine that gets your little one from I'm awake to relaxing and putting themselves to sleep? We all have bedtime routine. When you are getting ready for bed, what do? You brush your teeth, you put on your pajamas, whatever it is that you do is your bedtime routine. You're kind of getting yourself ready for sleep. And our bodies require that. And so your little one's body requires that as well. Set some bedtime rules, expectations, and consequences, setting boundaries, and also giving them a little bit of control. At this age, they are craving that control. They want to make some choices for themselves. They're in that stage where you can't tell me what to do. So we want to make sure that we're offering them the control so they feel empowered. And I think the biggest predictor of success when it comes to sleep is following through. And that is so hard sometimes, especially when on top of that, you've had a stressful day, had a crazy dinner time. It's the end of the day and you're exhausted. You just want to watch your Netflix show and relax and wind down and have some time for yourself. It's so much easier to give in at the moment, but it's not going to help you in the long run. So follow through is everything. I want to now explain to you how sleep works in terms of sleep science. Let's talk about sleep cycles. At 4 months, sleep cycles are now about 90 to 120 minutes. You will see them go into a deep sleep, but as soon as they hit a light stage of sleep, all of these hearts are wake ups, either partial wake ups or full wake ups. You will see that your little one starts waking up every 2 hours overnight. And that is normal. We all do that. It's a lot harder for parents that are assisting at the beginning, or there's what we call a sleep onset association. That's the only way that your little one can fall asleep. And so your little one falls asleep, and when they do wake up, they require some help to go back to sleep. And so you end up having to do that all night long. And that's when it can be unsustainable for a lot of parents. That's where we make some changes, and you can make changes 4 or 5 months at 12 months, and you can make changes at toddlerhood. You can make changes at 2 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, anytime you are ready. The beginning of the night is the deepest sleep. We call it non-REM sleep, which is deep sleep. The end is all light REM sleep. Your sleep cycles are mostly in the lighter stages, and that's really due to the level of melatonin in your body, cortisol, which is the stress hormone that wakes you up. And you can tell that after 12, your melatonin drops, your cortisol rises, and your body's waking up. And that's why our little ones usually have a hard time in those early mornings, because their body is already kind of waking up. So it's a lot harder if they don't know how to putting themselves to sleep. So when we see our little ones waking up at night, it could just be the end of a sleep cycle. The question we need to ask ourselves, do they require assistance to go back down to sleep? Is there something that you need to do externally to help them back to sleep? But before we change that, we need to make sure that your little one is getting the right amount of sleep. And so this is really dependent on your child after 2 years. So this really is case by case. So essentially, your little one can sleep a total amount of hours in a 24-hour period. After 2.5, many children can do 11 to 13 hours at night, or they might need a little bit more. As long as your nights are solid at least 12 hours, 11 to 13 hours, if they do take a nap and it doesn't interrupt your nights, you're okay to keep a nap. If, let's just say, you have a long nap and it's interrupting your nights, meaning you're having trouble at bedtime or you're having early wake ups and it's shortening your night, then what we need to do is shorten your nap to make your nights complete so that your nights are solid. That's where the deep sleep comes. And your naps are complementary. So a lot of little ones, if they're entering kindergarten, they're not needing a nap anymore, but what they will need is an earlier bedtime. Deep sleep happens at the beginning of the night. So the earlier the bedtime, the more opportunity we have to get them that nice, deep, restorative sleep, because anytime after 1 a.m., we're pretty much in light stages of sleep. And it's a hard transition. It is a hard transition to drop that nap, but you have to commit and do an earlier bedtime. A lot of parents that say they just can't make it till the end of the day, right? Because they're just so tired. So that's why we need to move our bedtime up. Let's talk about sleep environment. We need to make sure that your little one is in a dark space. I know that at toddlerhood, around 2 and over, around 2.5 is usually when we see it begin, is that your little one might have nightmares. Their imagination is developing very quickly, and so they might be scared of the dark. So if you do need to use a night light, always recommend that it's a red light. You want to make sure that the light is not going to interfere with sleep. So if you have light pouring into your window, their little bodies are already waking up, and it's going to take it as a sign that it's time to wake up for the day. So as much as you can cover those rooms with blackouts, especially at this time of the year, I would definitely do that. White noise. At toddlerhood, I let it be a decision for the family. When your baby is younger, we do recommend white noise, but a lot of families have more than one child at this stage and might be sharing a room. And so white noise can be a really helpful tool so that they are not interfering with each other and kind of taking away all that ambient noise that could interfere with sleep. It is a sleep association, but it's a very easy one to wean off of at any time. I know adults that still love their white noise, so it's okay to still have it. The other thing is, as long as your little one is over the age of 2, you can have like a lovey or a comfort item, and you have to make sure it's safe. There's no buttons falling off of it, no choking hazard or anything that can be harmful to your little one. And they can use that to comfort at night. And the last thing is a sleep sack. So I love sleep sacks. My kids were in sleep sacks till they were about 3. It's a great tool, not only because it keeps your child kind of stable and not able to climb over that crib, but because it keeps them warm. If you're using a blanket, not only are you going to be worried that it's going to be wrapped around them, it can be kicked off. And at this age, they just don't have the ability to realize that, get up and put their blanket back on. And so they might wake up cold at night. So a sleep sack will ensure that they're nice and toasty, not too hot. We don't want them to be too hot. It's a really good option, and they sell really much bigger sized ones that you can still use. Let's go into bedtime routine. If you have a bedtime routine, that is fantastic. It doesn't have to be exactly what I'm telling you. It can be anything that is special to you and your family, as long as it's the same thing every night in the same order. And I always say, mom, dad, grandparents can have their own bedtime routine. Your child will recognize that, but we want to make sure that it contains a couple of things. One, we want it to be a quiet activity. I know dads in particular like to do have a dance party before bed, or do some rough housing. It's not going to help. Quiet activity, Legos on the floor, coloring, anything that's kind of going to be winding down their body. Leave your phone downstairs and take some time, spend with your child, filling that attention need that they have. Even if it's 10 minutes, play with them, connect with them during bedtime routine. Make it visual. So in all of my courses, I give out handouts where you can actually build your own visual bedtime routine, because the little ones, they learn through visual cues. Check mark. We're taking a bath, then we put on our pajamas, right? Then we play in our room. I want your child to be given the opportunity to make these decisions. What comes first? What comes second? That's how we're going to empower them. So have them build out that bedtime routine with you. And then we can use tools like timers, bedtime charts. And in this stage, I really love role playing, putting your stuffies to bed, practicing what the expectations are before it happens. Your little ones understand at this age. Anytime over 2, you can talk to them and communicate that with them and let them know what to expect. Because if they don't know what to expect, they're obviously going to cry and be upset because they really don't understand. So repetition and communication are so important. And setting those boundaries with them, letting them know when it comes to bedtime, these are the bedtime rules, and we are not going to be moving from this. And that is really the hardest part, is keeping those boundaries, not even just setting them, it's holding them while your child has big feelings about them. It doesn't have to be long, drawn out rules. With little ones, you want to keep it simple. Stay in bed, close my eyes, and stay as quiet as a mouse. And those are the 3 bedtime rules. We want to make sure that we are setting that with our child so that they understand. Will they love it every time? Probably not. It doesn't mean that there's not going to be any pushback on them, but it does mean that we have to be loving and firm with what is acceptable. And that is always established beforehand. The other thing I want to talk about is a really good visual tool that you can use over the age of 2 years old. And that's a toddler clock or a sleep trainer clock. I like the Hatch Baby Rest because you can program it on your phone. It turns orange for bedtime, red for sleep, right? Because red is good for their brain, has slower waves, so it doesn't interfere with sleep. Blue or green for wake up time. So they have to wait until that clock turns green before they can get out of bed. So it's a visual cue for them. And it works really well, but you have to let them experience that sensation of waiting in their bed, and then the light turns green and then they can get out of bed. You need to practice that. So always, when you set this up for them, always set the clock earlier than they usually wake up. So if they wake up at 6, you want to set it at 5:30. Have them experience that, give them lots of praise, get them really excited about it. And then you can start setting it back 5 minutes later or 5 minutes later until they get used to waiting quietly in their bed, or waiting in their bed until the clock goes off and tells them that they can get up. And then I don't know how many implement quiet time, but I know that a lot of daycares and facilities have quiet time. If your little one's not napping, it doesn't mean that your little one can't play independently. I always start with a very short amount of time, using a timer, communicate expectations, and then you can make quiet time a lot more. But in their room, as long as it's safe, they should have a little bit of quiet time in the middle of the day, especially if they're home. So quiet time is a really good thing, both for parents and for little ones, where there's no screens and they can kind of just relax and have a little bit of independent playtime, and you can have a little bit of a break, which is important. Your mental health is important too. So I'm going to leave you with an activity, how to build out this bedtime routine. So think about it. What does my ideal bedtime routine look like? What choices can I provide? Sometimes it's just really about, would you like to wear these pajamas or these pajamas? One out of two, right? What book would you like to read? Let's pick out the book that you want to read. Would you like to read one book or three books? Small choices make a huge difference. What are the boundaries that you're going to set for your family? What are the consequences? Whether it's, I'm going to walk you back to bed if you get out of your room, move the door a little bit closer, we're going to put a gate. It really depends on your family, but you need to have some really immediate consequences so that they know, okay, these are the boundaries. The other thing is, I find a lot of parents, as soon as their little one gets up from bed, they'll have a real long conversation. Any wake up at night should be silent. In terms of your response should be silent. You can give them a hug, reassurance, and bring them back to bed. But I don't really want a lot of talking at that time because it's really overstimulating and it's just giving them the wrong impression. Tommy, you shouldn't get out from bed because it's not good for your sleep. You need to go to bed. I told you 3 times. That in itself is fueling them for more wake ups. And it's giving them that attention that they should be having at bedtime after bedtime. But if you plan out your response ahead of time, it's going to make it easier at 3 a.m. because you're going to know exactly what you're going to do instead of figure out, oh, should I bring this child to my bed? Should I put him back? You just already have a plan and all you have to do is follow it. So I know this is a very quick overview of how to help our kids sleep independently, and I hope that was helpful, but I do want to give some time for a Q&A because I know you have very specific questions. And so at this time, I'm going to open up the floor and let you guys unmute.
So if you have anyone has any specific questions, please feel comfortable enough to ask.
I think we have somebody that wrote in the chat.
Yeah, what is the name of the toddler clock?
So Jackie, the name is the Hatch Baby Rest. That's the one I like, but there's also the Grow Clock. You can find them on Amazon.
Yes, hello Lily. Thanks for the presentation. It was very nice and informative. So I have my eldest, he will be turning 3 in September. And when it comes to bedtime, we have a routine. He's pretty okay with it, but it seems as if he's always very energetic and anxious the further we progress into the bedtime routine. And it's kind of like he has a fear of missing out on activities and he wants to keep the fun going. So he'll have like this rising energy level the closer we get to actually going into his bed. What could I do to help him?
So that's a really great question because that typically happens. The first thing I would make sure is that there's no nap happening so that they don't get too much day sleep. The second thing I would say is use a timer. Timer is a really great way of handing over that responsibility of ending the playtime. Set the timer for 5 minutes per activity and have the timer tell you when it's over. And then that means that you're moving on to the next activity. If it's you, it can be harder, right? Try that. That might be helpful as well.
Thank you.
Charlene, did you have a question?
Thanks for the helpful tips and advice so far. So my toddler is about to turn 3 in December. He does 2 hours of nap at daycare. Lately, he's going to wake up in the middle of the night and he's going to try to delay the bedtime routine. We've been sleeping at 11 p.m. He'll wake up and then ask to go downstairs and he says that he wants to eat. Sometimes he's going to eat, but oftentimes it feels just like a delay tactic because he's not actually hungry and he's not eating. He's just throwing whatever we're giving him. So how do we differentiate if it's a real eating need versus just delay tactic?
Yeah. So I would definitely start to cut your day sleep. If you can, maybe do an hour of nap instead of 2 hours, because it seems like a lot of day sleep and it could interfere with your nights. It could cause him to have a harder time going back to sleep in the middle of the night. And that could be triggering kind of, okay, what else do I do? I'm going to try first to reduce your nap to an hour and see how that works for you. The second thing is make sure you're offering a bedtime snack, something that you know that they enjoy, but that's full of proteins, yogurt and banana. So you are kind of offering that snack during or before your bedtime routine so that you have peace of mind that it's not really hunger related. That's when you kind of have to hold those boundaries and not offer the food, because also I don't want him getting those calories at night or he's going to just eat less during the day. So we want to make sure that he's offered a snack at bedtime, but then
Yeah.
after bedtime, it's like lights are out. That's when we are kind of going through it. And he's not going to starve. He's going to be okay. It's just offering that at the beginning.
As a follow-up question, do you have any strategies for, because I know we talk a lot about like full-on blackout blinds, which he has at in his room during the summer because the sun sets so late. So that's what makes it difficult to get our routine in because he still thinks it's like early.
Yeah, I think it's about us kind of controlling that environment and making it as dim as possible in that room where you're going to be for the 30 minutes before he goes down, and start winding him down. You know, it takes about 20 to 30 minutes to kind of wind our bodies down. Try to just make the environment as dark as you can. That's really all we can do at this time. You can manage that because you can manage the environment, but I totally get it. It's a lot of FOMO at this age, right? Why are their kids playing outside and I have to go to bed, right? That's what my kids say sometimes. It really is about getting that routine down and getting them involved in it so that they get excited about bedtime routine.
Thank you so much.
I want to thank everyone for joining us today. It was such a pleasure to have you all with us. Please feel free to look up inventivekids.com. It is with a Z. We have an international bachelor academy for children from age 3 to grade 3, which is a primary program, IB International. We have an early years section for newborn to 5-year-old. We are part of the government program. We are a not-for-profit organization for over 19 years. Not only we do workshops and seminars for families and community, we also do family mediations, arbitrations, child voice, family therapy. So please feel free to check us out and see how we can help you move forward in your parenting. Please feel free to reach out to inventivekids.com and look at our other events and workshops coming up in our family center. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Take care.